just get this all situated. I'll just wait for a little bit longer before I officially start the class. Okay. All right. And we will get started. Welcome. This is the G Suite, or the All Things Google class, brought to you by the Orland Park Public Library. I'm Joe. I'm an IT assistant too. And I'll save all the questions for the end, or I might stop every so often to kind of get everyone to have some time to kind of adjust and kind of absorb all the information. So, all right, first and foremost, this is the Google Suite, which you can see kind of all the apps in this little area right here. This is a bit outdated, but everything still is currently in the Google Suite itself, which is an amalgamation of Google itself, Gmail, spreadsheets, maps, my account, Google Docs, Play, Calendar, Android Auto, /apps and ads, YouTube, Drive, spreadsheets, Translate, Hangouts. Google Plus is no longer a thing of the public use, more of like a private use. And the settings, administrator settings, and the photos and Google News. And there's much more. I'll kind of get into it afterward. I'll kind of go through the PowerPoint right now. And then after it, I'll just go through each one kind of separately and then kind of show you a more hands-on approach of it. So first of all is Gmail. Gmail is what most people usually think of when they come to think of the kind of Google Suite itself. It's the Google Gmail itself, where it is Google's email service. It started as an only invite service. So what that means is that, like how now, instead of it being you just make a Google account and then you can start Gmail right out the gate after making an account, you actually had to have an invite originally, which is kind of interesting to learn. And then it's a simple, intuitive email service, which, just like with everything else where you would use like Yahoo or iCloud or something like that, where it's kind of like a easier way of using an email service. And Gmail has a lot of hidden bells and whistles, including a whole suite of available services once you establish a Google account. So usually when you sign up with a Gmail/Google account, there are added features to Gmail that I'll kind of get into at a later point of the class, but that pretty much is the little kind of down low of the Gmail app itself. Next is Google Maps. It is currently the most popular directional app. Estimates distance, travel time, and toll costs, which is pretty helpful. So every time you set up at a destination, whether it be, for instance, if you start from your house and then you kind of go to another state or anything like that, you can actually see the time it actually takes to your point A and point B, and it actually gives you the total distance in miles, and you can actually choose specifically. There's different options, I would say, that it kind of gives you, where it'll be like a choice A, B, and C, where it'll kind of give you multiple routes instead of just giving you one route from point A to point B. And then also, like I said before, if you're going out of state, it'll give you the toll costs. So you can choose to avoid tolls, or you can, if you're doing the toll roads, it'll give you the toll cost for each one. So it'll kind of aggregate all of that together. And then you can also redirect to faster routes based on traffic, like I mentioned before. You can set home and work addresses. So if you have a Google account already and you go into Google Maps, you can actually save locations instead of having to manually enter them in every single time. And then this way, you can actually save time instead of entering them all in manually. You can kind of autofill it, which it'll automatically kind of come in the box. So you can just get a much more faster kind of search. And then, like mentioned before, where you can have the app avoid tolls. So instead of having just a simple A to B, it'll give you a C or a D kind of option where you can take side roads instead of taking the highway sometimes. And then you can change the mode of transport, whether it would be walking, biking, or public transportation. So there should be a little option I'll show on later where it'll kind of give you a like visual distance as far as like what you would be for driving, whether it be for walking or biking or public transportation, and kind of adjust automatically. So that's Google Maps. And as you can see right here, it kind of gives you a little brief overview and images. I'll get a more hands-on experience later, but as you can see right here, where you'll see a map, satellite, terrain, it'll kind of give you different kind of options for what kind of view you want, whether it be just the map like you see right here. You can kind of get like a Earth kind of view where you'll get a more realistic map. And then you kind of see the terrain and stuff like that. And then over in this portion, you'll get traffic, transit, and biking, which is, you'll see a difference like you see over here, where it'll give you different routes and then different times and destination times. So then this way you can kind of gauge how much time you need. And then down here, you'll see notifications, location showing, your places, contributions, timeline. You can actually save an embedded app map itself, and you can also print it out too instead of having it digitally, because sometimes some people use a more physical copy instead of having to be in a dead space where there's no Wi-Fi or you don't have mobile data on your phone. You can actually have it printed out, and it'll kind of look like this right here in the middle part right here. And you'll kind of get a little map on the bottom as well as this list right here, and you kind of expand it and you can see the different details as far as when to turn and what street to turn, how many miles per street it is. So it kind of varies. So as these other ones up here, you can kind of see like with your plate, like with, you can get notifications, whether it be, it'll be differences between, it'll give you a notification being that it'll give you kind of an insight of, okay, this is changing, or if you're using mobile data or Wi-Fi on your phone, if you have Wi-Fi built into your car or something, that as you go on, it'll kind of auto update depending on where you are. And then sometimes they'll give you notifications, whether it be like accident reports or different delays, or you can kind of choose a different route while you're kind of moving. You can share your location, whether it be if, say, you're traveling with someone else that using a different car and they don't have something like this, you can kind of share it, and then they have the exact same route that you're taking and kind of can follow you kind of live. And then your places, what this is it saves you can choose to save every single location that you have used beforehand, going from point A to point B. So then you have to keep manually entering in all the information all over again. And then you can see right here where there's a car option, which will be how fast and how far it'll be via car, bus, walking, bicycle, and airfare. So it kind of shows you'll put in right here where your point A will be and what your point B will be, where your starting and stopping distance. And then this way, you can also, as an added bonus, you can have a you can have route options to either avoid highways, tolls, ferries, and also you can have the distance in units, whether it be kilometers or miles, or you can have it set automatic depending on where your location is in the world. So you can kind of auto do it instead of having to manually do it yourself. And then right here in this kind of image right here, you can kind of see like a preview of whatever you're going. And it'll give you the full name, the rating, how many reviews there is. It'll give you directions, like this point is right here, which this is right over here. It'll give you the ability to save the location, see what's nearby. You can say if you're using your computer, you can have that information sent to your phone. And you can also share it via emails or kind of different places, so you can share it that way. So it'll be easier to have people see what you need to do. So, and then you'll see the address right here. You'll see if there's a website for any place, if it's like a specific building or organization. You'll see the phone number, and then you'll see right here where it'll give you sometimes a opening and closing time. So if you click this little arrow right here, it'll give you every day of the week, and then it'll give you the times that, depending on what organization it is, provides to Google itself about when the place will open and close. So, and then down here, you'll see popular times. So for instance, if you're going to a restaurant of some sort, and then you can kind of see based on statistics for reviews of that place to see what kind of the high and the low times of the kind of production is, where how, in a better, easier sense of putting it, is that you can kind of see when the busiest time is. So say you open it up and you're like, man, I want to go to this restaurant right now, or like a TGI Friday or something. And then you say, oh, well, I don't know where it'll kind of be the most busy. So you'll go down to the bottom part right here, and you can say, oh, I want to go on Friday. So then you click and change the Thursday to a Friday or whatever it defaults to. And then you'll kind of see a bar graph going across, and you'll see, oh, it's not too busy or it's too busy. So it'll give you kind of a plan ahead kind of option. And then right here, like I described before, where you can have either like a map view, whether it be pretty basic, it'll give you like street names, it'll give you just very basic looking rivers and highways, so you can kind of see what's around the area. If you scroll in with the wheel or you zoom in with your phone, you get more detailed streets. So it'll show the main streets kind of right here. And then if you scroll in, you'll see the smaller streets. As you can see right here, it's not labeled right here, but then when you scroll in, like I'll do later on, you'll see where there's kind of side streets over here. And then you'll see this little box sometimes where you have a satellite view instead of having kind of a directional kind of map view. You'll have a more realistic satellite image of what things look like from a top side view. And then you'll see right here, this little yellow guy right down here. And then you can kind of place that to be like, oh, this is where I am. And then this is where, like, kind of stuff around my area. And then sometimes, it doesn't show this right here, but sometimes you'll get a Google Street View. And that way, this can also be compatible with this too, where if you put this down, it'll be Google Street View, where you'll see like this image right here. It'll kind of give a front view, and then you can kind of see where you're kind of going, and then you'll see what's around you, and it'll be like a more live kind of view. And then you can also get to see how, which I think is kind of cool, you can kind of see how places have changed over time. You can kind of backdate it with Google Earth. So I think that's pretty interesting. And then that's pretty much that about Google Maps. Next is Google Drive, which is a cloud-based storage. What that means is that instead of locally storing your data on your laptop or your phone, you could do that, but then this way you have it digitally backed up to a server that Google houses. that this way you have to worry about losing files or deleting files, and this way you kind of save that kind of stuff. So right here allows access from anywhere on any device as long as you have an internet connection. That's a big thing, where you have to have an internet connection at all times if you're backing stuff up to Google Drive, just like you would any other cloud-based service. So in that kind of point, you can have a desktop app for Google Drive appear as a drive on your computer offline for offline use, which if you're using the online version, you always have to have an internet connection. With the desktop app, you can actually have it used for offline, and it'll kind of add like a drive location on your computer like you would have for a OneDrive or your actual hard drive itself for your computer. And it also integrates with Google Docs. What Google Docs is a word processor that Google houses instead of having Microsoft Word. This is kind of like a nice alternative that comes along with the Google Suite. And once you actually have a Google account, it gives you 15 gigabytes free with a Gmail account. So then I'll get to this kind of later, but once you actually sign up for a Google account, you get 15 gigabytes free, and then you can actually expand afterward. If you say, well, I want to have 32 or 64, you can kind of see the different pricing and you can kind of upgrade that from there. So as you can see right here is kind of an image where you'll see My Drive. If you're using it on Chrome or any other web browser, you'll see on My Drive, which will give you everything like an overview of what you recently modified, your folders that you made, the files that are in folders or in folders. And then you'll see the computers that are using this drive. So it'll kind of give you more in-depth information about who's using this drive account with Google. And then shared with me, for instance, if you're in a workplace or if you're doing a project, that this way you can actually share a link or kind of a file to anybody via an email or something like that, that you can actually modify stuff live with it being out on Google Drive. So that's always useful. And then there's a recent part right here where you can see all your recent documents starred. So what that means is that you can say you click on the file, there will be an option where it has a little star. You can star it to where they say, yes, this is the most important one I need to kind of keep an eye out for, or I don't want to lose or have it lost in the shuffle of what kind of other files you have. And then the trash, which is self-explanatory, where it's kind of the trash can for anything you want. You can actually permanently remove, or say you want to delete it out of your inbox or your drive, and then you don't want to actually delete it. You can kind of recover it from there instead of having it being deleted for good. And then there's also backups right here, which is you can actually have stuff on your drive and you can also make a backup of it. So then you can have it in multiple spots rather than just that one file in that one place. And then there's this option right here. It'll say this right here where it'll give you the amount of megabytes or gigabytes you've used out of whatever plan you're going with. As right here, you'll see the 63.6 megabytes out of 15 free that you get for free with having a Google account. And then right here, you could, like I talked about before, you have the upgrade storage option, where with that, you can upgrade to 32 or 16, like 16, 32, 64. So I'll kind of show that more in depth later. Next is Google Calendar. This is kind of the default app that Google uses to kind of organize, plan schedules, and I'll kind of go by each bullet point right now. It's a calendar used for organization. It's used for personal events and organization, as well as by large businesses for planning employee schedules, meetings, etc. So what you can do, it works on Android and iOS as well as desktop, that you can actually use the app as kind of like an employee schedule. You can kind of make your own kind of schedule as like a nice view. I'll kind of show a visual representation later on, and I'll show you kind of what can be done in that. But you can integrate it with stuff like Outlook. So for instance, if you don't want to have a Gmail kind of extension to your email address, you can link it with stuff with Outlook or Yahoo Mail and stuff like that, so that you can kind of mix them together. So you can kind of have them in one place rather than have them in various spots instead of having them in different email addresses and stuff. So, and then it also integrates seamlessly with Google Web apps like Drive and Hangouts. You can actually plan a meeting. You can send out an invite, attach the documents on the calendar event, and also connect for meeting via Hangouts. So what those kind of mean is that you can actually, in the app itself, when you're going through the calendar, you can actually set up a meeting. You can actually send invites to whoever you have linked to your Google account or other email addresses that have Gmail extensions or so far and so forth. And then you can attach documents to a calendar event. Say if you make Google Docs or Word, you can attach it to the actual date as well, so people can find that easily. And then you can also connect for meeting via Hangouts. So you can plan a meeting and then you can say, hey, we'll meet at this time. So then you can have an extension open up Google Hangouts or Meeting or Google Meet to basically be like a shortcut to it, instead of having to open up the apps list and then go to Google Meet. And then then this way you can actually have everything, like your meeting time, your date, your document that you want to share to your team, and you can also do a meeting about it too, all in kind of one spot. As you can see right here is here's a couple images right here. You'll see by default a calendar with a 28-9 day 30 kind of calendar on the side. You can choose these arrows to kind of go back a month or forward a month. And then you can add a Fred's calendar. So what that means is you can actually, if someone has a Google account, you can actually share your calendar with someone else, and then they can kind of have a visual representation of what they're putting as well as what you're putting. You can set up different calendars, which that means, say you want to make a time and date right here, you can kind of label them, whether it be green, blue, black, and then you see there's like a legend on the left side saying like, oh, this is just a birthday or a reminder kind of category. Here's holidays. So it kind of color codes things. And then right here, say you click on Sunday the 6th, you can actually in there add a title of the event. It'll kind of give you recommendations, change the time zone, whether it be all day or you want it to repeat dates. You can find a recommendation time. And then with the event details, you can add a location, whether it be an address or room number. You can add kind of people in the group. You can get a notification. You can set up for notification like a day or so in the future beforehand, so you kind of get a reminder. And then you can set up with your Gmail or whoever's Gmails you want to have notifications for, whether it be you or your team members. And then you'll see right here, this is like the Word kind of control doc where you can attach files, make titles and stuff like that, bold, italicize, underline, bullet points, number of lines, links, and stuff like that. And then there's guests where you can add people's Google accounts and then have them be notified along with your team, or you can actually add them as team members and kind of have them be included in the event. Next is Google Photos. Google Photos is a photo storage and has a photo storage and organization. It's alternative to Apple and Amazon photo storage. It can be used on any device and shared with any device, unlike Apple. It can sync directly with your phone or contact as cloud storage or photos. Simple photo editing and sharing, and option to organize photos into printable books, which can be ordered directly through the app. I'll kind of go through all these one by one. So yes, it is an online photo storage thing. So if you have a native Google device, or you're using it on desktop, or you download the app, you can use it as the default gallery app where you can kind of use your camera, take photos, and then you go in there and you can see a visual representation of photos. It'll be like the photo viewer app. And then within the app, it is a alternate to Apple and Amazon photo storage. It can be shared because unlike iOS and macOS, you can't sometimes share your photos. this way you can actually sync directly to your phone, as well as act like a storage for your photos. Like I said before, you can kind of use it as a gallery, like a storage kind of place where, say you take a picture on your phone and you want to use it on your desktop, you just take a picture on your phone, make sure it's linked up to Google Photos. You go to Google Photos on your desktop and you can see the photo live on there from your phone. So this way you kind of see a live kind of sync to itself. You can also do some editing and sharing. So there's kind of very little editing parts to it. So I'll kind of go, it's more of like a visual, like learning thing where I can kind of show that later on. And you also do have the option to organize your photos in printable books. So it'll be more like a place to house more visual kind of representation of stuff. So as you can see right here, you'll see photos, which will be a kind of a very open place for your photos. Albums, so you go into a photo and then you can actually add stuff to albums. So you would say take all these photos and you're like, oh well, this is the out with the kids, and you can kind of name that within the photos and then it'll automatically add them to the albums. You have the Google Assistant, which I'll get into later. You can share your photos with other people with Google accounts. You have photo books, which I'll get into later. It'll be more visual kind of thing. And then you'll have the settings right here where you have the high quality free unlimited storage, which is a great visual quality, but reduced file size. Or if a photo is too big like this, you can keep it as original, but then it'll count against your quota, which means that, say, if the photo itself, difference being is that if you have the photo itself, say if it's say 16 gigs and if you only have the free 15, you can actually have the high quality, which will reduce the size, but then you kind of keep the clarity, but at a lower size, or you keep the original size, but then you have to upgrade, and then it gives you the buy storage option right here. And then there is the shared library, so you can automatically share photos with another Google account. You can select cards you want to see in your assistant. You can group similar faces, so you can kind of highlight a face in the photo, and then you can say, this is this person, kind of like you would on Facebook or Twitter. And then you can share them. You can have a draft reminder for email, so you can kind of get a reminder if you still have drafts with photos. You can back up to Google Drive. You can get browser notifications, so you can kind of get a little notification kind of right here saying how many photos it is, or if anybody commented or shared or something like that, so you can actually see that visually. And then you can kind of give activity logs, so you can remove comments, messages, you can make comments and messages, you can kind of share photos from there. And right now, I'll actually go into the interactive portion right here. We get a more visual, make sure that this is sharing. Okay. So right here, I'll just log into my Google account right now, so you kind of see a visual representation of what I'm looking at, what you're looking at here. And there is more apps that isn't included in this presentation because it's a bit more kind of interactive right there. And then, okay. Let me fix this. Let me move myself over here. Okay, I'm signed into my account now. And you'll kind of see things kind of aggregated in here. So first you'll see calendar. Like I mentioned before, you'll have your full month calendar right here. You can create a calendar. Here's, you kind of go forward and back months. Here's kind of a color-coded kind of thing where if you say create and then you say meeting and save it, you'll see right here it's a task. So you can kind of change that stuff within here and you'll see a live kind of holiday and stuff like that here. And then I got a reminder right here saying notify me in 5 minutes. So that's a visual representation of the notification system within calendar. So then that's, you'll see, you can do it by day. You'll kind of see different times in day. You can do by week, month. As you can see right here, where because of the holidays in the United States, you'll see that those are dark green along with the check mark here. You can actually remove them too. So you can choose to either hide them or view them. And then next you'll see contacts. So then if you have anything linked to a Google Contacts app, you'll see all of them viewable in here. You'll see your frequently contacted. And then you'll have labels you can create. You can import and export. You can print them out. And then there is Google Drive. As you can kind of see right here where you can share it or share it with me. You have starred, trash. As you can see right here, I'm using 2.5 out of 15 gigs used. You can buy more storage. So if you go over here, you have the 15 gigs free. You have 100 gigabytes, which is $1.99 per month, or you pay $20 for the full year. And there is the 200 gigabyte package right here. That will be $2.99 per month, or $30 for the full year. And that includes the storage, access to Google Experts, option to add your family, extra member benefits. It has the same thing as here, but you get 3% back on Google Store purchases. And right here's a 2 terabyte option. It's $10 per month, and then you'll see it's the $100 per year if you want to pay for just one flat rate. You get 10% back in your store credit instead of the 3%, and you get a VPN for your Android phone. And then that, and this right here is Google One. I'll get into that later. But next is Gmail. You can kind of see there's the inbox, starred, snoozed, sent, drafts, and stuff like that. So you can kind of see a thing right here where inbox is just everything, where everything kind of floats. Starred is like, say there's a Google one right here, and then I want to make a star, so I star it right on the left side right here, and then now it'll pop up here so you'll know what your more important emails are. Snooze is like stuff you kind of want to put on the back burner for email, so you kind of move stuff around. So if you want to say, click on here, snooze, and then wait till tomorrow, and then right here, it'll pop up in here, and then you can kind of wait for it for later. It'll be your sent. Here's the drafts. You can just make messages, you can make emails important. So if you go in here, and then if you scroll across the top right here, you can make a label. You can add the social. And then if you go right here, there's a social and there's promotions. You'll kind of aggregate stuff. And then Google Chats, scheduled emails, have it all mail, so everything will float in one spot. Spam, trash, and there's different categories right here. You can make labels. You have Google Meet where you can create a new meeting. You can send an invite or start now, or you can join a meeting and then you have to enter in whatever code it gives you after you start one, like you would normally. Next is Google Maps. With that, as you can see right here, I'll move this over here. You can see right here is like more of like an overview. So if I zoom out, how everything kind of goes out of spot, and then there's the main streets, whether it's, you'll see like Wolf Road and stuff like that. You'll see like the Country Club or Dave and Buster's, like these major spots, and each one of them are labeled. So this is like a golf course. This will be for the restaurants, stuff like that. So if I zoom in, everything becomes more clear, and you see more of the side streets. Like instead of seeing, say, Wolf Road, you'll see right here, you'll see Royal Oaks Inn, Royal Oaks Lawn, Crystal Meadows Court, and stuff like that. So you'll kind of see more of like a detailed thing. And if you choose satellite, down in the left-hand corner, you'll see a more realistic satellite view of everything. You kind of see stuff right here. And then if I say go to the Orland Park Library, you kind of search stuff right here. And then if I move this guy right here, you can also see that there's some photos of whatever's taken from that organization. And then you'll see a red dot saying like where you placed your little guy. So if I click on this, just try to get back here. If I go to map, and say if I go to Google right now, and then I do a search like, say, Orland Park Library. From here, sometimes you'll see a Google Street View. But if I go to Maps, you'll see right here, it says Street View in 360. So if I click on this, minimize this, you can kind of drag around, you can click forward, back. And this is all taken live, and you can see right here, if I move along, you'll see times and dates. So if you see Street View right here, you click on that, you can go back in time and see how things have changed. So if I click on this, this is what it'll look like in 2012, 2007. So in this way, you kind of see how things kind of progress over time. And then let's say you want to do directions. So you click on directions and say you want to make this your starting point. And say you want to know where TGI Fridays is. And it'll give you locations. So it'll give you the name, and it'll give you what street it's on, so you kind of see what it's at. So if I want to click on TGI Fridays, you'll see if it's restaurants, hotels, or gas stations, or parking lots kind of around the area. And then it'll give you options of how to get through stuff. So there'll be like option 1, it'll give you the time, the amount of distance. You can save it to share it to your phone, other people, you can print it out. It'll give you directions. So if I expand this, it'll tell you, hey, head west on here, head right on here. So it'll give you kind of a more step-by-step kind of showing of when and where to turn. You can see different distance with cars, buses, walking, cycling, and then you kind of go from there. So then if I go back to photos, you can see right here, you'll have all your photos kind of aggregated right here. You can share them. There's a print store where you can get photo prints, premium prints if you have the right printer that's hooked up for it. You can categorize stuff. There's a utilities portion where you can create a new movie, animation, collage. There's an archive, so you can archive your stuff if you don't want to have them just out in the open. and then trash, and then you kind of see how much storage is used already. Then there's a Google Play Store, which you can download movies, games, books, and you can kind of download them from your computer, and you can actually throw them at your phone. So if you say, oh, well, I have a phone right here and I want to download, say, Facebook, you just go over here, you install, and if you have a Google account on your phone, you can actually install it from your computer, and then you'll be able to access it on your phone. And then you can see right here, you'll see movies and TV. You can do the same thing here. You'll get like a rating system, the price. So it's kind of like a little brief overview, kind of use that with any kind of thing right here. There's a Google search, which will bring you back to the Google homepage. And then there's Google Translate. Say you don't know something in Spanish or German or anything like that. So what you do is, say you want to learn something, if you want to do English to Spanish. So you would say, you type in right here, like hello. And then it'll translate it to whatever the language is. And you can also see the different interjections. You can click them on the fly, so it'll change to it automatically. And then you kind of do stuff. So if you want to say, oh, I don't know what this means. And then if you want to translate it to English, that means this. So you can also do that with documents too, along with text. So say if you have Google Docs in English and you want to translate it entirely into Spanish, you just browse your computer, click on the Word document or Google Docs. You want to translate it to Spanish, it will literally translate the entire document into that one language instead of you having to precariously know what is what. Then next is YouTube, which everyone knows YouTube is like a video streaming site where you can upload, share content, stuff like that. So you kind of see like a visual representation. You'll have your subscriptions, which are channels that you follow. You can see what's trending in the world. You can see your subscriptions. And then you also get notifications. You can create a video from here. So that's kind of like a more advanced kind of suite. So if I go back to the, if I go back to google.com right here, I'll go down here, you'll have Google News, which will give you everything that's up to date with news. Google Meet, which is like Zoom, like I'm using right now, where you can host and join meetings. Google Duo, which is a one-on-one video chatting instead of having, it's kind of the same thing like FaceTime is for iOS, but it's Google's own variant on it. Instead of hosting like in meetings, it'll be like a one-on-one kind of thing. Or if you want to do a group, it's like different but separate to Google Meet. You have Blogger, which you can create your own blog. So I go back to Google. There's Google Books. You can look and search for books, Google Classroom. And right here, people usually do is that, say right now with this whole pandemic going on, that you can actually create a classroom, add assignments, projects, tests, and then you kind of share them and edit them right here, and everything can be uploaded, commented on, and stuff like that. Next is Google Docs, which is an alternative for Word. You have templates right here. You can add a blank document. You start typing. And you can see, you can make citations. You can edit the document. I'm trying to move it along here. And then next is Google Earth. Let this load up a bit because it'll be the first time I've loaded this up. Now you'll see a more realistic and Earth-like kind of experience right here. Taking a bit of time. Yeah, you can see right here, you kind of make a 3D view. You have a compass, so you kind of move it around, zoom in. Everything's kind of live. You can kind of see the terrain in the area, locations, what the latitude and longitude is, meters. Next is Google Finance, where you'll see stocks and stuff. You'll have Google Hangouts, which is pretty much like Google Meet, but then it's kind of like a different alternative to that. And then there's Google Keep, which is you'll create labels and make reminders for yourself. Google Collections or Shopping, where if you click on this, you can kind of see right here, you'll get recommendations from other places for different products. And then there's Google Sheets, which is the same thing as spreadsheets or Excel, if you know that. There's Slides, which is like PowerPoint. Jamboard, which is kind of like the Google Music. Arts and Culture. There's Google Ads, which is advertisements and stuff like that. So you can grow your business. You can start now, and you can call this toll-free number and create advertisements for your business. And there's Google Podcasts, where you can listen to podcasts. Google Stadia, which is a gaming console that Google just introduced not too long ago. And that's pretty much it on the Google app front. So let me go back to the slide. And that's it. Thank you all for joining. I'll leave it open for a little bit for any questions if I went through anything too quickly or if something needed to be clarified. So I'll leave the kind of Q&A right here. But as you can see right here, there's upcoming classes. In December, there's Intro to 3D Printing, which is you can kind of make 3D objects based on something you create via program, or you can make replications of stuff. And then on the 15th, there's Intro to the Raspberry Pi. Instead of having a big old computer, you have a smaller computer with SD cards. You want to make something like a kiosk or an advertisement, or if you want to do something like for video games or streaming, you kind of use that. It's a little underpowered, but you can kind of see what you kind of see with that. And then here's my information right here if you want to contact me personally if you have any questions. So that's that. So if anybody has any questions, I'll leave it open for a couple more minutes just to see if there's anything that needs to be answered or clarified. But that's pretty much it. So it's a lot to kind of digest, but pretty much this is the whole kind of Google infrastructure. So pretty much anything you can think of, Google will probably have had a alternative to it. So yeah, so I'll leave it open for a little bit longer just to see if anybody has any questions or needs any kind of clarification. Oh, you are very welcome. Anybody has any questions, I'll leave it up for about another minute or two. Yeah, I mean, it seems all a little bit complicated at first, but once you kind of use stuff, everything's kind of catered to the masses. So it's pretty much an easy pick up and kind of use kind of thing. So if anybody has any more questions, I will be ending the class right now. So thank you for joining the class. Hold on a second. the recitation. I learned a bit more tonight. You're very welcome. If anybody has any more questions, you can contact me at either this email address or this number right here. So this has been the G Suite or All Things Google, and I am Joe from the Orland Park Public Library. Thank you for watching.